Oh, I love that. Or what do the teachers do? They raise their hands and do something different. Yeah. Oh, that's right. They do the clap. Welcome, everybody. I am calling to order our Monday, May 13th board meeting. And we are going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. And then after that, I will be handing the meeting over to our student board member. So it's customary that our last meeting of the school year, she will chair it. So we're going to start with the pledge.
Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so I will just really quickly say, you'll see on this, it says report on action taken in closed session. We'll be doing closed session after because we had our reception prior, so that will be after. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay. Item 5.0, approval of order of agenda items for this meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion approved. 6.0 announcements. We have Ms. Wagner with the recognition of Poetry Out Loud.
Absolutely, thank you. So Poetry Out Loud is a national poetry recitation contest for high school students. Each year, students all over the country memorize poems and recite those poems, first in class competitions, then in school competitions, then at a county competition, which in Stanislaus County is run by Modesto Stanislaus Poetry Center, and this determines the winner who goes on to our state competition. Stanislaus County's Poetry Out Loud champion this year is Parker Whitemeyer, who has competed. You can come up here. So Parker has competed in this contest at Oakdale High for a couple of years. He memorized and recited 2 poems for the school contest and an additional poem for the state contest, which was held in person this year for the first time since 2019. Parker recites his chosen poems with heart, deep understanding, and a sense of humor. Thank you to the OHS English Department for holding the Poetry Out Loud classroom and school contests, and thank you and congratulations to Parker Whitemeyer for the thought and effort he put into earning the Stanislaus County Poetry Out Loud Championship and representing Oakdale High School at the state level. Thank you so much.
I asked what poem did he recite?
Why don't you do it for us?
I recited All Hallows Eve by Dorothea Tanning and On the Death of Anne Bronte by Charlotte Bronte. So those were the 2 poems I recited.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Item 6.2, Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, I have the pleasure of recognizing the Sea of Purple out here, the Fair Oaks Falcons, who are here because they participated and were the champions of the 26th Annual Elementary Science Olympiad. The Science Olympiad is an exciting one-day, 17-event competition for 4th through 6th graders. After several weeks of coaching the team, studying team experiments, and individual preparation, the teams gather for the competition to test their knowledge and skill in science. Each team is composed of a maximum of 18 members, and each school can register up to 2 teams. This team competition gives students the opportunity to develop skills in teamwork, group and individual planning, and cooperation. This year's event was held on Saturday, April 27th in Turlock. We're pleased to report that the Fair Oaks Falcons Elementary School won first place with all students earning points in all 17 events. And I'd like now to recognize each one of you individually. And we have some certificates up here. So as you get your certificate, remain up here because it's a great photo op for everybody for longevity, okay? Adeline Tolby, or Tobo, I'm sorry, Tobo. Adam Yaligian, sorry. Addison Garcia. Amy Godinez Vargas. Ari Cortez.
Congratulations.
Ben Fisher. Ben Willingham. Cody Genasi. Ellie Miranda. Emily Mercer. Hayden Lutz. Kate Oliveira. Kennedy Seafelt. Madison Lang. Moses Jackson. Paisley Nunes. Sam Cordano. And Sarah Carver. Can I also introduce our illustrious coaches, Jessica Fisher, Teacher of the Year finalist, congratulations, and Coach Mary White. Powerhouse team up here. First place Falcons, congratulations. Coaches, anything to say about the group or any member want to share of experience?
I'll say it was their fourth consecutive first year in the title.
Wow.
And we had kids take on events at the very last second just to help out the team. We've had kids work together with kids they've never even met before. So the secret to their success is just their tenacity, their teamwork, and their heart. They worked twice a week, most of them, for an hour each day for several months. We started in November, so they came every week from November through April to study for this. So we're very proud of them.
Awesome commitment. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Take your photos. Yeah. Okay, outstanding. Way to go, Fair Oaks. Congratulations again. Well done. Good job, guys. Yeah, and we have a lengthy agenda, so parents, if you want to, feel free to go outside and celebrate with some goodies and stuff. Yeah, please do. Way to go, Falcons.
My kids were Fair Oaks Falcons.
Yeah, I was a Fair Oaks Falcon.
Were you?
Yeah.
Hats off.
Oh, yeah, tell her hi. How's she doing? She's doing great. Great? Good.
Second year in college.
Awesome.
Only been home for a week. Blessing us with a present.
Tell her we said hi.
I will.
Okay. Item 6.3, Mrs. Shatswell.
Yes, so actually I'll have some, wait till they show.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. So each year, I'm sure most of you know, or everyone here, that we have a student board member that is with us. And so at this time, we're going to just say a few words, each board member does, and recognize her. So I will let the other board members start. I have her certificate, so I'll wrap it up. So, Board Member Gilbert.
Well, Grace, I mean, one of the things that really stood out, I think, about your service here on the board is you just brought this positivity to what you did. I mean, we really got the sense that you really wanted to be here, that you were doing your best, you did a fantastic job, and we just wish you continued success, positivity as you go to Sacramento next year.
Thank you.
I know you're going to love it. I know you were a little conflicted
Yeah.
about where you wanted to go,
Yeah.
but You know, things happen for a reason, and, you know, it'll be a good path. So congratulations.
Grace, I don't know if you remember me, but I knew you were little when we played on Natalie's soccer team, orange slices and all that. I was that guy out there yelling way too much and everything, but see where your journey has led you now. And I hope you have the best of luck and happiness moving forward with the rest of your life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, when I first met Grace, I thought she was so sweet, and I realized very quickly that really wasn't true. She's a spitfire like you cannot believe. She is, talk about tenacity. If she wants to do something, she's going to do it, and she's going to do it her way. And I appreciate that about you, Grace, because you are going to make it far. And so we are very proud of you. So you're going to do a great job at Sac State.
Grace, you're probably one of the best bosses I've ever had. If nobody knows, she's the head coach of my daughter's volleyball team, and she generously let me come on and be the assistant coach. So technically, she is my boss. But just watching the way you work with those kids is amazing. And you're also a great role model for those girls. The life that you live, literally, I don't think a lot of girls know, like, they're being watched, but the younger girls are watching what the high school girls are doing, and you set an amazing example. And I can speak to that personally because my daughter tells me. So thank you for just being who you are.
Thank you for bringing me back home a little bit, because it was a joy to discover, not necessarily this year, but prior to that you brought me back to my childhood, growing up with your family out there on Oak Ridge Drive, and that was just a real galvanizing kind of thing for me, just to make me feel at home and just get to know you, and just again knowing the great family you're from, and all the people that you're associated with. It was a joy. So thank you. And thanks for bringing me back.
All right. So, you know, every year we talk about academics and all the different things. So it's so nice to hear everybody talking about things, history and personal things. And I was so proud of you for knowing, you know, you were doing what you needed to do for us, or not needed, you wanted to. So I was happy for that. And, you know, we knew you had your academics and your sports and all your extracurriculars, and that is tough. That's really tough. So we really are proud of you and appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. And one of my main things as the president, because we've had some crazy meetings, to walk in and just see your smile. It was like, okay, I can just relax, and it's going to set the tone for the meeting. So I really appreciated that, just seeing how, you know, happy you were, and we could tell you were happy to be here. So I really appreciated that, and I'm so excited for you with your new adventure in college and everything moving forward. So we really do appreciate you being here and wish you all the best. And thank you for doing this for me. It gives me a little bit of a break. So thank you so much. We have this for you.
Thank you.
So we really appreciate you.
Thank you. Well,
Congratulations again on yet another achievement, because you racked them up, whether it's activities, athletics, academically,
Right.
talk about a well-rounded person, and you be very proud. Very proud.
thank you. Well, moving on to item 6.4 with Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, thank you. I would like to do you have that up, Kevin? I'd like to, at this time, again, recognize our Love Oakdale group. On April 27th, many in the community know that Love Oakdale does a tremendous amount of work throughout the community. I took a little statistics off the website, 800 volunteers, close to that, 63 projects across the community, 9 just for our schools. And the amount of stuff that was done in the past, but again, Love Oakdale stepped up and contributed generously to our schools. Just to show you just a few examples, tremendous amount of landscaping bark that was provided to our schools. So magnolia painting and some landscaping. Fair Oaks, again, a lot of that sprucing up, really making our campuses vibrant and looking sharp. Cloverland, again, A lot of those, just those small touches of really bringing our planters to life, makes it look great. The junior high, painting, even bleachers, handrails, planting trees, and again, more bark, tremendous amount of work. Same at Sierra View. Again, just those touches really help. And even at the high school, if you'll look with the painting the rails and the benches and the bark, you'll notice on the top right-hand corner a huge concrete slab that was poured outside of our greenhouse in the ag department. Boy, was that needed, and just at the right, thank you for that. That's very helpful. Even our continuation school. A lot of traffic along Hinkley there, so to have that bark just makes it look so much. So to Love Oakdale, Lisa, to your group, please extend our appreciation. We couldn't be more thankful for your continued support, and appreciate you to everything that you do to help our schools look so good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind if I thank the project leaders?
Of course, please, yes, yeah, and I would like, please, if you have a word or two.
Sure. So thanks. We love serving our schools, and we had over 300 volunteers just at our schools. So thank you, Mr. Redmond, and to Todd Daly, who I talked about earlier, for making that happen. Todd is great to work with. Hats off to Savannah Sprague this year, who was our chair for the Citywide Volunteer Day and took over managing the school projects for me. But it doesn't happen without a lot of help. So I'd just like to really mention the people that helped. At the high school, Anthony Pratt led that team, Sabrina Johnson at East Stand, Paige Hackman at the junior high, Courtney Schmidt, who's a teacher at the junior high, and Vicki Cordoza from Get Fit led the junior high garden project, which was a massive undertaking. Amanda Alfaro led the project at Sierra View, Matt and Melissa Donahue at Magnolia, Deidre Baker at Fair Oaks, Sue and Joe Evans at Cloverland, and David Bezmachian is the one who led the team that did the concrete. So incredible group of people, and thank you for letting us serve you. It's our pleasure to do that, and thank you for all your service to our students as well.
Well, thank you. You guys did the work and made our schools look great, so thank you. It's appreciated.
Moving on to item 7.0, the organization reports. Do we have a representative for Oakdale? Oh, OTA, yep,
Okay.
Ms. Hawksworth.
Just kidding.
Oh, it's not Ms. Hawksworth.
Instead.
Oh, I'm sorry. They told me the wrong.
Sorry.
Either better. We'll take it.
I just like to keep everybody guessing. Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm Margene Rath, the treasurer of Oakdale Teachers Association. I just wanted to give a quick recap of our year. We currently have 249 members. We're anxious for new hires to join in our membership and work with us. And we finished up state testing. Woohoo! It seems like we had a lot more participation, a lot less opt-outs, a lot more, I don't want to say buy-in, but I want to say buy-in. A lot more kids just willing to participate on all levels of our schools. Our teachers, as you can imagine, are feeling pretty excited as the year is coming to a close, and we're just continuing in these last 8 days, yes, we're counting, to emphasize engagement and hard work and just trying to keep the kids focused even with the large amount of distractions that kind of happen at this time of year. So everything's going well. And we'd just like to thank the board for your continued support and considering us as your teacher and staff. Thanks, have a good summer.
Thank you.
7.2, we don't have a report for the CSEA. Moving on to 7.3, the student board representative report. Last Saturday we had prom, or this past Saturday we had prom. We had a great turnout. It was at Greens on 10th in Modesto. And this week is the last week for our seniors. We have finals this week, and then the senior checkout is on Friday. And then finals week for the rest of the high school is next week. So we're just wrapping up everything this year, and it's been great. Moving on to 8.0, public comments. Public comments will be allowed. The board president will recognize any member of the audience wishing to speak on items not on the agenda, but directly related to school business. The president may allot time to those wishing to speak, but no action will be taken on matters presented. Individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. If appropriate, the president or any member of the board may direct that a matter be referred to the superintendent's office for placement on a future agenda. Are any public comments?
Lisa Kilgore, you already took care of it, okay? Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar. Item 9.1, removal of items from consent calendar. Information concurring consent items has been forwarded to each board member prior to this meeting for study. Unless some board member or member of the audience has a question about particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent list, the item will be approved at one time by the Board of Trustees. The action taken in approving consent items is set forth in the explanation of the individual items. Does any board member have any item to be removed?
9.5.4 and 9.5.5.
Do I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I'll motion to adopt the consent calendar.
A second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Consent calendar adopted.
So what you do now is, so when you go to the disposition, then you ask board member Taylor what she wants to do, and then you.
Oh, okay.
Those two.
Wait. What?
The two that were pulled,
Okay,
yeah, 9
okay.
yeah. So
Okay, so,
these guys, no, it's okay, you can look at mine, 9.5.4
Okay.
and 5.5 were pulled, so
Yes.
she will speak on those.
okay. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. I noticed that it said that the fiscal impact included PTC funds, right? For both of those, the shade structure at their partial.
Yes.
Correct. I
Yes.
just wanted to thank the PTC for that. I think this is great. The more the kids have to do activity-wise, the less trouble they get in for the most part. Plus, a lot of them don't do any other exercise, so getting out that recess, that's really wonderful. So I just was curious if the PTC had approached the district, or was it about supplying some of the money, or, do you know?
I don't want
Is
to
Todd
speak,
here?
I don't want to speak for them. I believe that there was discussion at their PTC about what do you need?
Okay.
One of the things that's always on their list was looking to replace play structure.
Right.
When we had the opportunity to afford ELOP funds and with our Meet Us Help and her program, we were able to parlay some of those funds together and make it work. So yes, we couldn't have. It was a significant contribution, and PTC definitely helped make that happen.
Okay, well, that's terrific. And also some COVID money?
Yes,
Right?
in-person grant,
Yeah.
yes. And we used after-school program in-person grant. We've used some of the site budgets and PTC. We pieced it together in every which way we could to make this work and extend the life of those grants for another good 15, 20 years with those play structures.
Well, terrific. Good job.
Yeah, that's what I would add, is that really good teamwork with that, back and forth between the district office and the PTC, and like she said, there's 4 funding groups in there, and a lot of teamwork, because PTC and site funds were going to be it, depending on the balance fund of money that allowed us to expand it. We were just looking at the shade structure, which is pretty pricey in itself, but then with these other funds allowed, we went back to PTC, and they were all for it, to get some extra play structure stuff for the kids, so a lot of teamwork, and I'm happy with how it's going. They are as well, and the kids will love it.
Great.
Ask for a motion to approve 94, 95.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 9.5.4 and 9.5.5?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Moving on to 11.0, report, Mr. Mendoza.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson Miller. Tonight, I would like to introduce Gary Geary, who we formed an association with to put together a facility master plan. If the board recalls, back in the fall, we had moved forward to look at our facility needs, do a facility needs assessment, and put together for us a comprehensive facility master plan so that we could look at all of our facilities, all of our sites, and have a long-range scope of work and a long-range timeline of which we could address our facilities over time. So I'm happy to introduce Gary, who's coming to us tonight to provide us the draft report, which will follow the full comprehensive facility master plan, which is quite the document formulated. But tonight he'll give us a synopsis of the plan itself.
Thank you. Glad to be back. So we have got a lot of stuff done from when we first started walking sites back in February, and I think it's only May. Seems later than that. But we are finalizing the draft and the report this week. So we've pulled out this section, some bits and pieces so that you can kind of get a picture of it, because it's kind of lengthy to go through the whole thing. So this kind of will hit the highlights of what is in the master plan. So, let's see, this one or this way. There we go. Okay, so summary from when I was here a couple meetings ago, the process, and you will see this as you go through the report, the data gathering, the surveys with the principals, the community survey, our site walks and assessments, the assessment reports, then the site master plans, which we'll really concentrate on tonight in this presentation, as well as the costs and the projects that kind of go with the cost, as well as how we put together some priorities for these projects. So taking some snippets out of it, and I don't expect you to read all this, you'll see in the report we'll have an introduction. There'll be an executive summary that will kind of hit on everything from the infrastructure, the site, the educational planning portions of it, the appearances, just to kind of summarize everything that's in the report. We will have the results of all the community survey responses, the questions, the answers that we got, like this one, quality of education, understand which programs are most important, highly qualified staff and teachers was the high scorer on those. This kind of word salad is kind of the interesting one when we give people the opportunity to mention what things are important. So those words that are the larger words are the ones that came up the most from people. Apparently bathrooms are important. Drop-off is also extremely important. Teachers, which is kind of borne out by the previous question. So that kind of gives us a quick glance, the things that were important in the community survey. So these are the rest of them, and I think I shared some of these results at the last meeting, but this will all be in the report, so you can kind of really dive into it and look at the specifics of what things came up the most. So the site assessments. So again, the things we reviewed: path of travel, fencing, entries, security, parking and drop-off, curb appeal, the building envelope, finishes, and then things like electrical, HVAC, as well as functionality of the academic spaces and how they support the programs. So this is you'll see this for every single school that's in there. This happens to be a sample assessment from Oakdale High School, and I think I actually included the entire one for Oakdale, so it's a few pages. You'll see all of them go through kind of this same format. We start with basically the exterior, looking at everything from ADA, path of travel, landscaping, fencing, security, site lighting, walkways, baseball backstops. Then we start moving into the building exterior, the finishes, gutters, painting, doors, hardware, the roofing stuff. Then we go to the interior and we look at things like, the bathrooms, both student and staff restrooms, and then just go through all of the individual finishes, fire alarm. We look at the classrooms, and then we looked at all the building interiors of the support spaces, like the offices. And then at the end, we go through kind of a functionality assessment of the sites, looking at things like, is the office, how does it function? Is it adequately sized? Cafeterias, how do they look? How are they functioning? Locker rooms, science rooms, general classrooms, gyms. So all of the spaces within the school, restrooms, and then some just general at the end, some functionality comments about each of the sites. So you'll see this is written up. This is essentially kind of a summary of everything we saw at each of the individual sites. So from there, we took all this information and started to develop a master site plan for each, not only school campus, but district facilities as well. We looked at things like level of modernization that needs to occur on the buildings, the remodels. Do we need to reconfigure spaces? Do we need new buildings or additions? Do we need new shade structures? How about the portables? The age of the portables is a time to replace them. Parking and drop-offs were looked at, as well as other site upgrades and security, and then fields and play areas. So with that, I'm going to kind of give you a quick walk through each of the sites. So starting with Cloverland. So what you'll see on each of these is it says notes, and there are a series of numbers and letters. Those are identified projects. Either interior are the building related are the letters, site related are the numbers, so that we can kind of keep them separate. There's a legend, and they're all the same with the legends. Yellow is essentially a light modernization. Red is a heavier renovation. There's purple where we're reconfiguring or repurposing spaces. And then we have things like the gray for the paving and the green for field upgrades. We show fencing, and then any removal or demolition, essentially, of things like portables. So this will be kind of what each of these are going to look like. So in this case, at Cloverland, there's a series of classroom wings that are showing kind of a moderate level of modernization. We've got some hard court upgrades, some field upgrades, and then looking at if it's blue, it's a new building. So that would be in replacement of portables. Now, whether that ends up as a stick-built building, a modularized building, nice portables, something to replace existing portables. Hopefully, yes, not with portables. So we identify, because there is a couple of rows of portables, keeping some and doing some renovation on them, and then adding a couple buildings over there. We also show another potential building site on the south side of the campus. We looked at some parking drop-off changes as well, and it's conceptual. It's not all detailed and worked out, but we're looking at this is what can be done and could be developed moving forward. So each of those projects will kind of show up later when we look at the cost estimates.
Mr. Geary?
Yes.
Could you give us examples of what a light modernization,
Includes versus
a moderate and a
or,
major?
Good question. So on a light modernization, we would be looking at, kind of some more finish things, some paint, some carpet, just a kind of a general light spruce up. We get to moderate, we're going to start looking at casework, sinks that are not ADA accessible, casework that's needing to be improved. We're probably looking at hardware, doors, And then each of the categories will likely, we are carrying kind of separately, looking at roofing, windows, and HVAC outside of the basic modernizations. A major modernization is going to probably look at, we might have to reconfigure, move a few walls, and really get into, we might have a lot of conduit and piping running all over, and we want to kind of conceal that and really make it look nice.
Thank
So those are kind of the levels. Good question.
So when it says playfield upgrades, what would that entail?
Basically, that would be in some manner, the fields over time, you start getting the gopher holes, they're not level anymore, so we would look at some upgrades to the irrigation to make sure that those are functioning well, and likely a scrape of the field and a reseeding of the entire field with some additional new grading so that it grades and drains properly. And that's pretty common. Every school, after really only even 10 years or less, all the fields start to become gopher haven. Fair Oaks, looking again, a lot of relocatables. So you see 3 blue buildings to replace the portables over time. And then we also again looked at making some changes to a drop off in the front that's kind of already there, but actually lengthening it, improving it, changing with some of the parking area. And then right now showing kind of a bus loop that actually runs through the site and comes on the back out to Pleasanton Place. It's kind of a look at trying to separate the cars and the buses. Some more lighter modernizations at Fair Oaks. You'll see most all of these will have a purple, and the purple's generally doing some work to kind of add some more additional admin-related spaces, what we like to call now wellness spaces, whether it's additional counseling types of spaces, special education types of spaces, that there's more and more for need at each of the sites. So we'll see those have been kind of worked into each of the plans as well. Magnolia, which probably has been a while since a lot of stuff's been done at Magnolia. So you'll see most is moderate for all the classrooms. The one shade structure is more of a light cleanup. The auditorium is a moderate, and then we're looking at a repurpose of where the existing cafeteria is because it's very small, and we also look at an equity between all the elementary schools, and Magnolia really is lacking from that perspective. So we identify a similar sized multi-purpose building that's been done at Cloverland and Fair Oaks, which then allows us to reuse and repurpose those spaces.
Is that the blue, is that new?
That's the new AA in blue. We actually have 2 options on Magnolia, and we thought we'd include both of them because a lot of it has to do with where we identify the kinder to end up on these sites. So in this one, we have the kinder is still up in the front part of the campus where it is now, and then we're adding some additional kinder or TK classrooms up in that area. This building in the back that just got renovated into kinder space, we're now would identify that to be kind of specialty classrooms, whether it be an art room or something like that that could be used on the campus. But we looked at a couple of different alternatives. There's a lot of open space in the front of this school. It's beautiful, it's great, but we heard a lot about drop-offs. And so we're showing a drop-off with some additional parking associated with that in the front of the campus. And then on the second option, we actually looked at kind of leaving the kinder and then moving the additional kinder from the front to adjacent to the new ones, kind of in this back area with a kind of a kinder play area. Generally, kinder TK is toward the front and the admin. So we tried something, this campus, because it's got streets on the front and the back, it could work for this location, so we thought we'd identify a couple of different options on this. We also priced both of these options. That being really the major difference, which then also opened up the front area for maybe some staff parking that could get placed. Sierra View being one of the newer schools, but of course now it is, as we looked at eligibility, it will be within a few years hitting the magic 25 years old, believe it or not, which makes it eligible for state funding. Boy, now I really feel old. So with that, we're showing some light modernizations to kind of do some freshening up of all of the classrooms, even though they are in really good condition. But I think one of the things we heard there, when that school was done, one of the technologies that was being employed for HVAC was the unit ventilators, where you've got that big thing sitting in the classroom that makes a whole bunch of noise and blows hot air out the front. You don't really see those being done anymore. So we have identified, and it'll show up on the cost estimate, actually removing those and going to an alternate type of heating and cooling system, especially because those are kind of getting toward the end of their life anyway, and it's getting harder and harder to get the parts to repair those kinds of units. We identified a couple buildings because there is some potential growth that looks like maybe coming in that area. Those would be, long-term, if that ever, starts to generate enough students to where you need it. We've, identified a couple spots to add some additional classrooms. The junior high. So parking and drop-off are a real challenge here. And we looked at a lot of alternatives. So really at this point, the best is to keep most of it where it is, but attempt to do some reconfiguration, dividing kind of the spaces up to create more of a, staff separated, creating another staff parking lot so that it's a little more user-friendly for the parents for drop-off. Some light modernization because we've got some newer buildings that really need some freshening up. And then there's some more major things that we looked at. So there's a series, as you know, of portables, some of which are rather old at this point, being used for a variety of things. So that's where we're showing some new parking, some new hard courts over there. And then BB is a new building that would kind of take a lot of those functions, more of a specialized classroom building, some CTE type stuff, some music, some art into that building there that would go on that hard court area. Then we're looking at replacing the shade structure with a new one. And then doing some work to expand the cafeteria area off to the front, since the kitchen's kind of in the back side of that G building, and then rework, kind of that area. We've got a couple sets of restrooms that are quite old and quite in need of a major renovation, so that's why they're in red. And then we're looking at recapturing most of that area on the sides of the admin for some of those specialty types of spaces for wellness and special, types of educational functions. Oakdale High School. So this one got kind of broken up into 3 sections. It's a bit of a big campus, and I didn't want it too small so that we could see it. So we've got the main campus buildings in the top right. the fields across the bottom. So starting with kind of the fields, we need some work on renovating the soccer fields, and as well as adding some path lighting out there, and then a secondary kind of field building for mainly the girls' sports. At the stadium, I think by 2029, we'll be due for a new turf. So since we are looking at a 10-year plus plan, we needed to include the turf replacement in there. Also, we'll look at some point, the bleachers on the home side. Something needs to happen with those. So we've identified that, and the press box for some upgrades. And then looking to go in with a new restroom concession facility to replace what is existing there. As for then the main campus, the left side is really the parking area with the ag and the CTE shops. So those looking at some major modernization work on those, because CTE scored very high in the surveys, and we're seeing a big move to those. So we think that given the age of the facility, although they've got some great equipment, the buildings themselves really need some attention to be brought up to some current standards. We'd also like to move away from Portable Alley down there off of what was the dead end of that street. And we placed a number of new portables to replace those, although I know there is a new one over there. That one would move as well. So 12, kind of those blue ones, and then which one is this one down here? Is another. So these would be kind of the movement of those portables away from that, so then we can then reconfigure and just have a parking lot without kids having to walk out into the parking lot to go to a classroom. Then it's a series of, this portion of the campus on the east side has been fairly well modernized in the early 2000s. So just some light refinish type stuff as carpet gets old and some paint needs to be refreshed. The main building, the old building, that one needs the most love and modernization work, as well as kind of some reconfigurations with the office and kind of expansion of those areas. And so that's what's shown there. We show a little bit of an addition to the cafeteria space to give some additional area for dining and gathering for the students. And then just again, a series of either light or moderate modernization work. The tennis courts need to be upgraded as well in this, which are actually down here on the field portion. So of course, being a pretty good sized high school, it will have the most expense associated with it.
Gary?
Yeah.
Quick question, but on this initial draft, again, this is conceptual, this is a draft. This is
Correct.
not the expansion to the cafeteria would not be an expansion that would be able to serve the whole student body and put us in a situation where we could consider closing the campus. You would have to consider something much more elaborate than what we currently have, is that correct?
Correct, yes. This is not the size cafeteria that we would need to support a closed campus for a school this size. So it's just to give them some additional, student dining use space next to the existing small space.
So if that's something that may come in the future, though, do you see anything on that could accommodate the entire campus?
We would probably have to go 2 stories, huh?
Well, as much as I would, yeah, probably we'd have to either go up or we'd have to probably just take down the existing cafeteria and then maximize as much of that space as we possibly could. Even probably, maybe expanding a little bit out to the west. We have that one outdoor shade canopy that's built up beside the locker rooms. So we might have to just make a larger footprint in there.
Well,
That
don't
was
they
one of
have
the
a-
negatives from the survey though, right?
Correct.
That was a very no. Yeah.
No, in terms of,
No, in terms of people did not want the campus to be closed for lunch. Yeah.
Well, of course they don't.
But it wasn't just the students that were doing that. I mean, that wasn't students that were doing the survey necessarily. That was taxpayers.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. No, and of course they don't. And if you're a business owner, you don't want it either.
No.
You know, so, yeah.
but isn't there electric out there in the quad if you were to do pop-ups of different kinds?
This is the main electric that comes into the campus, that little raised stage area
Uh-huh.
that took the, whatever was on top of it away, and then we kind of rehabbed the stage area.
The slab.
Yeah.
Just call it the slab.
Slab. We were like, let's just get rid of this whole thing, and then we went downstairs. And we're like, yeah, we're just gonna renovate this slab. So that's the main hub for the campus.
And that's a serious, the whole electrical infrastructure is a very concerning issue, correct?
Yes. East Stand, little bit of modernization work on this site. This building's had some work done to it, so just kind of some light refresh down the line. This building needing kind of the most attention to, as well as the portable and then room 1. Other than that, looking at, some fencing that we need to, there is some interaction between these two buildings at sites at the moment. So we'd like to kind of work on some fencing stuff to better secure that site. Roofing is kind of about due. The infamous charter school.
It's like you're starting over.
And the central kitchen. So the central kitchen's great. It's pretty new. The only problem is they have taken on doing so many meals for people that they don't have enough space. So, lots of issues with the very old portables that is currently being used for the charter school. So we were looking at, even though there is a bit of a grade change, but we can kind of fix that, some addition for the central kitchen, mainly for storage facilities that they need for their food and whatnot. And then taking the Head Start space and putting the charter school over there, which also kind of helps separate the two of these a little bit better as well. Maintenance and operations, so we've got some pavement repair work to do, some fencing upgrades. There's a canopy back there that's kind of reached the end of its life. So we're looking at some exterior canopies. The one building was set up for a future expansion, mainly for exterior covered storage. It could be enclosed, so that's what AA is identifying, and then just some just general light cleanup modernization within the kind of the office areas of the M&O building. There is some drainage and issues back in the kind of the northwest corner that also need to be addressed with the paving. The transportation center. Well, there's a lot of things we'd really like to do there, but this is going to be one of those decisions downstream that the district's going to have to come to grips with. The space is pretty tight as it is. And as we move to, any more buses or the electrification and electric buses and the infrastructure for that, we're really going to be stretched for space. So is there a possibility of acquiring land to the west for an expansion? We've looked at that and identified that as a possibility. They would like to find some space to expand the existing bus maintenance facility. It's already, kind of at capacity with what they're trying to function. And they'd also like another additional, say, portable out there because they've got more staff and they've kind of run out of space to put them. And they do have that nice little training room, and they don't really want to, kind of give that up. So there are a number of things that are identified for this site that could happen over the next how many years. District office, just really, finishes, clean up. Really should have an ADA accessible entrance from the main street. Is something that we identified, and we'd like to kind of improve the connection between the two buildings from what we've got right now. This location really just, over time, paint. The roofing will eventually, probably in about 10 years or so, we'll need to start looking at doing some stuff with the roofing, and then the HVAC. So just really some light modernization work that will be needed. Okay, so now we'll kind of look at, real quick at the costs. So the cost estimates include all these things. So first of all, each are going to be linked to an individual project that had the letter or the number on it with the different levels of modernization, reconfigured spaces. We have identified separately the major systems, roofing, HVAC, windows, ADA upgrades. We put in some money for some underground utility upgrades because given the age of some of the sites, we know that's going to need to happen. All the estimates will include a 7% construction contingency. We're doing 25% for soft costs, which are things like DSA fees, inspector fees, architectural fees, surveys, any legal stuff, printing, etc. And then we've based all the estimates on spring 2024 costs. Now, what the estimates currently do not do is account for escalation. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is we're not 100% sure when the project's going to happen to properly escalate it. And two, escalation is to a degree like throwing darts at the wall. What will it be 4 years from now versus next year? We don't really know, so it's really just a guess. So this at least puts it in terms of dollars today so that it's a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so this is a sample of one of the sites that shows all the detail. So the columns will show the square footage, the cost per square foot, or in some cases we may have lineal feet. And then it comes up with a construction cost. We add the 7% contingency that gets us what would be a construction budget that we would go on a project as we hire somebody to design it and build it. We then add 25% to that to cover all those soft costs, administrative type costs that are not direct bricks and mortar. And then you get the total project budget at the end. And it goes through each of the identified numbers and letters, and then it's got subgroups in each of those, like replacing windows, replacing roofing, replacing HVAC, so that, it could be that, depending on how money is, this can be used as a blueprint for all maintenance and operations work, and we can start going, okay, we need to replace HVAC in this building, and here's basically a budget estimate for what that's going to cost. We then have the last section is all the site upgrades. And so you got a building cost, we've got site costs, and then we have total costs. So I know it'll be shocking when you look at some of the numbers. So this all in, everything with soft costs for, which site was this? This is Magnolia, $28 million. And probably go, what did we build Sierra View for? Right now, kind of the going rate to build a elementary school is $55 million. So 28's a bargain to really freshen it up and obviously deal with a lot of things. Like on an older site, we've even got some line items for some seismic upgrade stuff that needs to occur by code. So each site will have this sheet, and that's what it'll look like. And then this is the summary of the costs for each of the sites with the construction costs over to project budget costs. So we've got the school sites and then the district sites, and the grand total in 2024 dollars is $210 million. And most of this, I'll show you in the next slide, is not going for a lot of fluff. So the most expensive site is Oakdale High School at $64 million, but when you look at a high school of that size, if we were to build it, it would cost close to $200 million today. We did some prioritization of projects, and this is mainly done based on ages of equipment and the looks of the finishes. When does that work need to be done? So you'll see we've got green, yellow, and red. Green is immediate, 0 to 4 years. It's time to do something, whether it's roofing or HVAC. Priority B, the yellow, is 5 to 9 years, and then the red is 10 years plus. So this is what a sample site prioritization looks like with each of the line items, either yellow, green, or red. So if we look at the costs by priority, this is kind of a summary. The A priorities are about 120 million. The B's are 63 and the C's are 27. So. And then we looked at, just to get an idea of how much of this is really going into things like roofing, HVAC, windows, basic things that need to happen. And all of those things alone is 92 million of the costs. And so that just kind of to show you an example of just replacing, roofing is $16 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but there's a lot of roofs that are going to need to be replaced. So how is the master plan work funded? Well, there's a lot that needs to be looked at for that. So modernization, which basically will be these projects, the state currently provides 60% if the district provides 40%. If the district doesn't have their 40%, you can't get the 60%. Okay, so that's the first thing that needs to happen. Eligibility-wise, the district is going to have about $50 million worth of eligibility. So as long as the district can provide their share of that, then you can get that $50 million. There are potential grants, and those are changing all the time and always something to look at. CTE has been a big item to find grant money for over the years. So that and other related programs that will come up, whether it's TK, will be something to look at to fund it. For new housing that comes online, there'll be developer fees. And then that leaves the bulk of it having to be funded by a general obligation bond. And we've looked it up to 110 million based on current assessed values at the $60 rate.
That's close to what our bond capacity is.
Your bond capacity would be. So that would be how to fund it all. Otherwise, the state no longer does deferred maintenance and provides money like we used to, and a lot of these things, quite frankly, are deferred maintenance items. So.
Cassandra, developer fee fund is up to about?
1.6 million.
Yeah.
So who typically does the grant writing? Is that something the districts do internally, or?
A lot of districts do that internally. Some districts hire people who just write grants.
Because I know that's kind of a skill in and of itself.
There is. The bigger districts have somebody in-house that just does grant writing. Most districts tend to hire people who know how to write grants. And if you have specific things that are out there that are available, then you hire them to write a grant.
So as we had mentioned previously, like developer fees, even grants and CTE. CTE does give us, we get some good money, but it's still within the hundreds of thousands. It's not millions. And really critical point on this thing that I want, that we have to educate the public on, is that these facilities are old. It is not a matter of neglect. It's not a matter of systems that weren't good quality systems. We've got infrastructure in place that's been there since the 1940s, 1950s. Now, we've replaced HVAC systems, we've replaced roofs and whatnot, but generally, the electrical, the plumbing, a good portion of our infrastructure is just aged. And again, we've done, and this past boards, past superintendents, bonds that, and the community support that we've had in the past, is kept our facilities functional. Our facilities work. However, we are, I believe, and that's why we're bringing this forward now, and that's why I think it's vital. I truly feel, and that's why we did the needs assessment, the needs assessment has proved it out, we're reaching critical mass on those aged facilities. Something is going to have to be done, otherwise we're going to have massive system failure. And at that point, we are currently spending hundreds of thousands, and including roofing and HVAC, over a million, million and a half per year on right now just maintaining and fixing and patching our current infrastructure. We cannot keep up with that pace. So that is why we thought it vital to reinstitute our facility master plan, making sure we have a good idea what our needs are. We needed to get a cost to that, but ultimately the realization that the cost far exceeds any capacity that the district has to maintain that maintenance or maintain that repair. We can do it in the, we've done it in the short term, but we've got to the point where we have to look at other options at a massive scale. So therefore, at that point, that's when, I'm just reminding the board here, we brought ISOM advisors and John Isom to come in, do a bond feasibility study, because the only real opportunity for us to actually get our schools functional for the next 25, 30 years so that our schools are good to go for the long range is to do this comprehensively. And the only possible way to do that is to look at some type of major funding source like a general obligation bond. The other thing, the reason why this is opportune right now is we brought John Isom in to look at what our bonding capacity is and the impact that our last bond has had. If the board is already aware, we had a bond where we needed to expand our district in 2002. That bond is expiring. So when John Isom presented his initial report on the bond survey, it was promising, but it wasn't overwhelming. And so he advised us to do some continued outreach, which we did. We brought together a number of representatives in our community, whether it be the agricultural community, the business community, spiritual community, the service clubs, parents, a cross-section of a number of people who are, as well as city, as well as Chamber of Commerce city people, some people who really have a grip on understanding what the impact of this, what the community is facing. Because we wanted to hear from them. We want to get some additional ideas as to what would our community be able to do to respond to this need. So we wanted to make sure we brought those folks together as an additional part of generating more of that information. I can easily say, and I'm very confident that any member of that committee would resoundingly say they understand the need. They understand the needs there. They understand that the only way to attack this is in a comprehensive measure, which does mean the need for the opportunity to look at a general obligation bond. And they also recognize that we have a unique opportunity here because the 2002 bond is expiring. So in our conversation with that committee and in my follow-up conversations with them, they were very positive on the fact that they believe that if we have a really robust educational campaign and educational process throughout the community, that the community has always and will continue to support our school. And the fact that we have an opportunity with the current bond expiring, they were very positive on the notion of looking at a bond extension, where we would incrementally bring in a new bond and we would write up a resolution so that as the old bond expires, the new bond would take its place, and we could commit to the community that we would not we would not call for a bigger bond than what was passed in 2002.
Yeah, but with all due respect, how we're going to execute this is up to the board.
Correct.
Not to a community committee.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm presenting tonight, is to the board, is that if we looked at a bond extension, the feedback we received was very positive in that regard.
Part of the presentation talked about a bond extension, and it wasn't very positive in what was presented to us by the consultant we hired. So, I mean, I would be more inclined to go with the responses of 300 versus the responses of 20. Or at least we need to have, Larry, more conversation about that. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Okay.
So no, we are not in a position to make any decisions about that without more information. At least I don't feel like I am.
Okay. I think that what I'm doing tonight is I'm reporting back.
I understand, because it's a report, it's not something where you're requiring action to be taken. I get that. But
What I'm reporting tonight is the committee felt that the community would be more receptive to incrementally extending the bond so that as the older bond expired, the new bond would take its place. So therefore, we wouldn't be piling on top of an existing bond with a new bond.
Understand.
So in that regard, I'm coming forward for the board to have some discussion in regards to meeting this need, because if we do go forward with a resolution to call to put a general obligation bond on the ballot, I would like to bring it forward at the June meeting in order to get it on the ballot in time for the November election.
And that's a deadline too, isn't it?
Correct. Well,
It has to be.
It's June, so by our June meeting.
That's what I mean.
Correct, we'd have to pass
Yeah, there is a
resolution.
deadline.
So, Gary, I don't know if you have any more information or more to report in regards to funding or, opportunities for us to get this.
No, those are kind of the options, and of course, we now have TK, and the state really doesn't have a way to help pay for it either. So, like they said they would. So, there is that. So, yeah, so, we expect that there'll be a fair number of districts who are going to be out for a bond in this November in an effort to even just, for maintenance repair, which is what a large portion of, this bond needs to go to, if you do one. Otherwise, if there's any questions, I'm happy.
I have a couple of questions.
Go, you're good.
Okay, so the priority A, B, and C, things like the multi-purpose room at Magnolia, what is that considered? What priority? Do you know?
They're back.
Because I don't have that one in
high.
front of me. That one, I believe, is in A priority because of the equitability situation that really exists.
Okay, and then what about air conditioning in the girls' locker room at the high school, which is also an equity?
That would be an A.
Okay, and then the drop-off and those types of things, I noticed, you have something for every site. Some of them are pretty extensive, like the one at Fair Oaks, which is taking part of the playground and going on one of those courts in the back, which I am not super thrilled with that one. That one bothers me a bit,
It's a
just
concept.
because, yeah, that one's a tougher one than some of the other ones. Are those priority As also?
A and B,
Okay, depending on what site it's at.
depending on the site, yeah. And again, those types of things, I think we would need to really dive into and have, more detailed discussions about. And a lot of that's going to depend on ultimately how much money is there to spend and, to really fine tune which things we need to do.
Thank you.
I had some questions. You used the phrase "some seismic stuff." Are we talking about structural, or are these like the hangers for electrical and a T-bar ceiling and stuff like that?
So the current code is if we get into a building and we do a renovation of the building that exceeds 50%, they say, of the value of a new building to replace it, then that triggers having to do a seismic upgrade, which means just doing it per current codes. Doesn't mean the buildings are unsafe, it just means.
Right.
Yeah,
But that's going all the way to the HVAC, the anchors for the ceiling,
Correct.
so they wobble all the way down.
Correct,
So if
yeah,
we
there's
do
some
hit something
projects, yeah,
structural
like-
where we have to build it on anchors to the walls to wave, that could.
yeah, potentially, and what I've been seeing on a lot of these is there would be foundations that we would have to go in and provide some additional concrete and tie downs of some of the posts to meet some of the current code requirements on seismic.
From there, we said, bond, can you go over the bond capacity again? Because you had mentioned something, and I was trying to wrap my brain around the, Larry, when you were talking about, that was our max bond capacity?
Yeah, 110 million.
Basically, they consider, it's a formula, they consider the assets or the value of the assessed value within Oakdale. And then there's a formula that comes up with what is the current bond amount that is currently on the books and what is available, what else is available for us that we could, so there's a capacity, there's a limit amount about how much we can actually move forward on the bond with in order to keep it at that 55%.
Gotcha,
schedule.
okay.
And it's all property right, improved or unimproved.
Correct.
And it's assessed value, so it's not
Yeah.
market value.
Right,
It
no,
is
I
based
understand.
upon what your value in your
Yeah.
tax.
Right.
Now lower than.
Correct, I understand.
And then my last question, again, talking kind of about the grant writer, because that's kind of been a hiccup I've come across. Is that something could we use these monies to cover the cost of a grant writer for using like the CTE grants or whatever? Is that something, or would that be an extra expense on top of that?
Or part of the soft cost you talked
Yeah,
about.
are we allowed
I think
to?
that, I think we could use money out of the soft costs of the bond for that, because that is getting money for the district's match of any projects that the state would pay for. Or pay some of, they won't pay for it all.
Okay. Because we don't currently employ a grant writer, do we?
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, most
These
districts
guys right
don't.
here.
And they work hard enough as is, so.
The other thing is, in order, Clayton, in order to get that, to that bond capacity, that 110, that would put us at about a $60 rate per $100,000 assessed value. So our 2002 bond was $59. So if we went to 60, that puts us at our bond capacity. Basically, we could either consider a $60, well, we could consider we could consider less, and we would get less money to do the projects. If we wanted to fund the 110 to our bond capacity, that would mean a $60 per $100,000 assessed value. And that would, again, bring us back to the rate basically we had in 2002. The only concept with the extension was we wouldn't put the $60, as the $60 would come right away, and we would still have remnants from the 2002 bond versus it phasing it in. But the capacity or the rate that we're talking about would be either $40 or $60, depending upon how much we wanted to move forward with.
But that still doesn't get us to the 200 and something million.
No,
That's only
but
getting
again,
us halfway there.
that's the 10 and 20-year plan.
Okay.
Also, I know kind of how Terry was mentioning, I know the people's feelings about doing certain projects. And I remember we talked about it, I think in the last meeting. So if we did do a bond and it passed and they're saying, they only want it for certain things. This is my first experience with a bond. So if we did it and it passed and the voters, they had kind of an outline of what they really don't want to spend money on, what are our limitations on how we do spend that money? Does the board still have a complete choice of how do we do? I mean, I'm not,
How specific?
Exactly.
Would have to be in the bond.
You'll want to write it
Right.
to be very, very, very specific.
Okay.
Because that will tie you into having to do what it says. So
Right.
the language would be written as like, let's just say modernization of building systems.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you, that's anything, HVAC, roofing.
We have to identify projects,
projects.
so it has to be in the
Okay.
resolution, identify projects. We just don't want to say room
Be
2
super
is going to get,
specific.
yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
There's
It's
a,
just different than last time.
you do what you have to do before you do what you want to do. Take care of everything that has to happen, and then
Well, and kind of unfortunately, that's kind of the state of most school districts. I mean, it's you get the money and you have to do what you have to do to, keep the facilities in good operational order, as opposed to, there might be a whole lot of things you'd like to do, but it just is out of budget range, unless you're like Clovis and you pass one every 4 years and you're flush.
and we haven't passed one in, 20 years.
Speaking of that, Kevin, can you bring up, I do want to add this information that was presented. If we look at
This was clutch.
the bond dollars passed per student, and the comparison with local communities, Oakdale is extremely low per student bond dollars passed per student. So if you look at the number of districts there, some of them have 3, 4, 6 bonds that they've passed on top of each other. Oakdale has one, and we are very low in regards to how much money we have obligated in facility bonds comparatively. So even if we were to pass a bond in 2024, we'd still be pretty average. We still wouldn't be close to the top of the list.
So Cassandra, you had said before that this $20 per 100,000, that the bond that we had from 2002 is going to be completely done in 2030?
Around 2030. It starts tapering off around 2028, and it really kind of, and that's when we're not really paying very much. And so right now we're paying about 20, and I think it goes down to less than $8 per 100 around that 2028 range. And it's tapering off from our 2017 refunding bond that refunded the 2002.
Thank goodness you're not Patterson.
So again, I'm just calling for discussion tonight in regards to, we do have some options. Again, we need to, I think The consensus is that if we wait, well, it's not the consensus, the firm fact of the matter is if we were to wait a couple years, 2 years or 4 years, these costs are gonna incrementally escalate even that much more. And again, you know, we have an opportune time to consider this now. We can either, and again, looking at it either from the standpoint of $60 per 100 square, for $100,000 assessed value to get us to the point where we can pretty much accomplish our A priority projects. It will take an education campaign, but I would encourage and I would like the board to approve the process of looking to present a resolution at our June board meeting for calling for a bond election. So, throw it out for more discussion or?
Well, I mean, it's tough. We kind of talked about it a bit, but we know we need it. We need the money. There's no question of what we need to do. It's just so tough because when you go out there and we're asking, you know, people who are struggling, we want more money, even though we're extending, you know, we're going to need to explain kind of how it happens and what we're doing. It's hard. And so we don't want to ask for a bond and then it fails and then we go back and do it again and feel like we're just, you know, revisiting that. But it's clear we do need the money. And it was a little scary, as Diane mentioned, you know, that we were barely at, what was it, 53 or I don't remember our
No, it was
percentage.
Yeah, it was about almost 56%.
Right, and we have to have a certain percentage.
55.
Yeah, right,
So-
for it to pass, so we were just barely over that. And that's, like you said, you have a great point that, you know, I totally respect and I'm so thankful for those community members who came together and talked about that and did that. It just is a little scary that we only had, you know, 1% over what we need for it to pass.
Yeah, it will take an education.
That's
It will take an
That's
education
true.
campaign.
Yeah, that's true.
When
If
you
people-
present this kind of information to those 13 people, you watch the entire room change. When you could really understand, like out of all these communities so far, dollar per student, we are giving far less than any other community around us. And we take a lot of pride in what we do and who we are. And then you're saying, but if you show that by dollars, it looks like we don't care at all. I mean, not to be offensive,
Right, no,
but
no.
there is, you know, and again, I don't ever want to ask any, I'm as Dutch as they come. Like, I don't ever want to ask anybody for money, so, and I want to pinch my pennies, so. But when I look at this, I go, well, I personally, we should be giving more. Like, there is stuff we can do, so I don't feel bad asking for this bond when you look at these numbers.
I just want to understand, so, because I've never been through a bond, I pay them when my bond property taxes and stuff. So $60 for every 100,000
Of assessed
that I owe
value.
in the school district?
Correct.
Okay.
Per year.
Per year. Okay, I understand. I just want to make sure. And I'm in on this, and my wife and I own quite a bit in this district. And I'm willing to step up and pay the $60 per 100,000. Because the ultimate question you got to ask yourself, I think, is the state we live in and the condition of its leaders and stuff is, where are we going to get the money to keep our schools open and going? And so forth. So, I mean, as far as I see it, I mean, I'm here to make a motion that we put this on the June board meeting to see what we can do about moving this forward. Let's be real here, okay, and stuff. It's, you know, we live in California because of the weather, our family, our friends, our community, okay? And I'm willing to spend $60 of every 100,000 I own in this school district to keep it going. And if you want to ask me outside, I'll tell you how much I own in this school district and so forth. I'm not bragging or anything. I'm just saying I'm willing to put up the $60.
And I think a lot of Oakdale, we have a lot of people who are of that same feeling for sure.
I agree.
And we do.
I think there's a lot of us who vote no on everything that has to do with increased taxes in the state of California, because I know I do.
Yeah.
unless it has something to do with local. Because then I at least know that my money's going to something I want to go to, and I can see, and I believe in. And what better to believe in than our school district?
Remind us again of the timing issues.
I'm sorry?
Remind us again of the timing issues.
So in Stanislaus County, there is a deadline to file with the elections office in, I believe it's June 24th.
Okay, so our
we
meeting
would-
is before that.
Correct. We have to pass a resolution at the June board meeting.
Got it.
Or we could call a special election, but I think we can, we'll certainly have it ready for the June board meeting.
I second Bill's motion that we bring the resolution forward at the June meeting.
I'd also like to add for the people in the community that are on a fixed income, like we understand that you're out there and you exist, and if there is an issue that we may not be aware of that you'd like to bring forward, please contact any one of us, because I would really like to hear if this would be a major concern. Again, I still have a paycheck coming in, but if I saw what was happening, the way our economy is going, and you're on a fixed income, this could be an impact, and we are aware of that. So reach out, please, if this is going to be something major for you. But
I think we're kind of all in the same, I think we feel that we need the money, and so.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is we'll go ahead and I'll contact John Isom. We'll formulate a resolution to bring forward to the board in June.
But you are going to provide us information about how the campaign is going to be run, whether it's going to be a bond extension. Because again, I would like to review that information again, because I might be remembering it incorrectly, but he was pretty specific that that was not the way to go.
Yeah, there was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
It did not rank as high, but then when he brought other information about, well, it would be this much per month, when it framed it differently for the same amount, again, then there was support. So it really depended upon how you presented it. And when you broke it down to a monthly payment, there was more receptive.
But in any event, it would be good to get more information on that particular issue.
Okay, very well. Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Moving on to 12.0 action items. 12.1, Mr. Mendonça.
Thank you. The Leo Bowl Scholarship is an award established to present scholarships to Oakdale High School graduates who represent the most outstanding all-around student for their graduation class. The Board of Trustees of the Oakdale Joint Unified School District is authorized to award this scholarship. The scholarship committee met, conducted interviews, had a score sheet, and through that process, selected Catherine Kate Brown to be awarded the Leo Bowl Scholarship Award for 2024. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the Leo Bowl Scholarship Award to Kate Brown.
Do I have a motion to approve?
motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion approved.
I'm like, you go tell her she can't.
It's a ratification. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. Yep, okay, Ms. Booth.
On the public hearing. of
Yeah.
Council.
Oh, yes,
Control
Mick
plan.
Wagner. Ms. Wagner, sorry.
All right, well, I'd like to apologize in advance that I didn't do what I had planned to do, which was make this LCAP the musical, write that in my head on the way home, and these guys are going to be my backup, so, thank you. So, all right, so the LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plan, which I'll call the LCAP here, comes in two parts this year. I'm going to talk about the annual update and our new LCAP. I'm not going to talk about the budget overview because that's about revenue, and we don't yet know what that revenue is going to be, as the May revise is still kind of, the details are still coming out. And I'm not going to talk about the expenditures tables because although they are filled in, again, we need to wait until the May revise when we can finalize all of that. So I'm just going to talk about what we do in our district to educate our students. So the first part is the annual update for our current LCAP. And this LCAP is closing this year. So the LCAP is a 4-year plan. The one closing this year was our 21 through 24 plan. And it has lots of parts. I want to give us some context for this because a lot has happened between 21 and 24. So in 1920, when the last LCAP closed, schools closed too, and our SBAC tests were suspended. In 2021, our elementary schools were remote until October 19th. Then they were hybrid, so the kids were going every other day. Oakdale secondary schools were remote for most of the year, and then SBAC did return in an abbreviated form. Believe it or not, it was longer at one point. It gave us no claim and target data, so it was not as useful as it had been before because we couldn't see those big trends. The LCAP was postponed that year until December, but Christy Rapinchuk persevered and she brought it forth anyway in May and June. Districts also had a choice to give the SBAC or a locally created test. We chose to give the SBAC. In 21-22, students were back in in-person school, independent study programs at all levels. The SBAC was back in an abbreviated form, again with no claim or target data. LCAP returned with a mid-cycle report, which was supposed to be that year only, but as of this year is forever. We do it every year now. And then the full LCAP report happened in May with approval in June. In 22-23, we still had the abbreviated SBAC. Most students returned to in-person school. We did not have the independent study requirements we'd had the year before. And as usual, LCAP was brought forward in May, approved in June. And so here we are in 23-24. The SBAC is going to remain abbreviated. They're never going to go back to the long form of the test. But we should get claim and target data back this year. There will be I did give a mid-year cycle or a mid-cycle report in February, and we'll have our annual update tonight. So here we are. So this is our current LCAP, the one that is ending right now. Goal 1 is that OJUSD will provide a K-12 continuum of academic excellence, producing graduates who are college and or career ready. We've had lots of successes with this. All students and staff have the curriculum they need and access to curriculum supplements as needed. Most recently, world language, secondary ELD, and elementary special ed teachers have received successful curriculum support, and first grade teachers participated in a one-day boot camp for a new phonics curriculum, which they like very much and are moving forward with. All TK6, secondary English, secondary math, so that's 7-12, secondary special ed teachers and OHS science teachers all received multiple days of professional development and collaboration. And our technology committee and our writing committee both continued to meet regularly in order to strengthen systems across the district. More successes. Intern and probationary teachers received training in our district's instructional norms, IS4. It stands for Instructional Strategies Supporting Student Success. That's why we made it shorter. And received district support for the SCOE induction program as needed. That's how they clear their credentials. They also received ongoing coaching and support from our academic coaches. LPAC and SBAC coordination at the district level has been very successful, resulting in more students being reclassified in a very smooth SBAC testing season. We have counselors and career technicians at both OHS and East Stan to help students explore their college and career possibilities and provide an understanding of A through G and CTE pathways. And OJUSD also provides academic enrichment through our GATE program, our expanding music program, and through outdoor ed. So lots of good things going on. That doesn't mean we don't have some challenges. Of course we do. We did not often meet our academic indicators. So we had goals in English and math, especially, and we did not often meet those. The pandemic threw a wrench into the works. but we are making progress. But we're not yet back to pre-pandemic percentages. We're close. We're closer every year, but not quite there. We continue to work on increasing A through G completion rates and make sure that graduation rates, especially for students with disabilities, stay high. Our college and career readiness rate remains low across the board, but we're working on ways to increase this rate, even as the metrics to measure the college and career readiness rate change. So they keep adding more to it. And I didn't put this on here, but an additional challenge. This past year, students with disabilities did not do well on the English portion of the SBAC in particular. They ended up in the red on the lowest category. So this is an area of special attention now, so we're trying to bring that back up. That's never happened before. I suspect it was an anomaly, but we'll see, because they've taken it again this year, and we'll see how it's going. Goal 2, and I know I'm going to move pretty quickly, but I'm happy to answer questions in a few minutes. OJUSD will provide strategic and accelerated intervention for identified at-risk students. So again, we have some nice successes here. The English Learner Progress Indicator has increased from 48.8% in 22 to 52.7% in 23. We're very pleased with that. We have an increased reclassification of English learners. We're reclassifying students. This means they're becoming fluent, and we're reclassifying more students than we ever have before. School attendance increased at all elementary sites and at the junior high, and as maintained at the high school. Our chronic absenteeism rate decreased, which is good, from 27.8% in 22 to 20.6% in 23, and indicators are that it is continuing to decrease. The high school dropout rate at OHS is lower now than it was pre-pandemic, so that's a plus. And ongoing training for paraprofessionals in intervention and best practices happen throughout the year. And we did that training for all our paras, all our teachers, aides, one-on-ones, everybody. We did it for all grade levels. So everybody got to participate in that. Again, we do have some challenges. This is also goal 2. Keeping the graduation rate at OHS high, especially for students with disabilities, is a challenge. Working to make sure students are taking advantage of the opportunities for extra help that are available to them. We want to provide the intervention, we want to provide the help, but often students, especially at secondary, just don't take advantage of it, whether that's office hours or tutoring and other kinds of available assistance. So we need to work on making that, making sure that they do begin to take advantage of it. We want to continue to increase the percentage of at-risk students who meet or exceed standards on the SBAC. So that's a goal, that's a regular goal, we are working on that. And we want to decrease suspension and expulsion rates for students at all levels without sacrificing our fundamental understanding that certain actions deserve consequences. We don't want to give that up, but we do want to look at what we're doing and see if we can figure out ways to decrease those, especially suspension rates. Goal 3, and again, this is this year's LCAP, which is ending in June. So goal 3 is OJUSD will maintain a stakeholder community, facilities, and transportation that supports a well-equipped, safe, and secure learning environment for all students. Successes that all school sites rated as good or above on the yearly Williams Act facilities inspection tool. Fewer students reported vaping overall, so we were happy about that. The percentages of families reporting full implementation and full implementation with sustainability, so on the scale that was a 4 or a 5, on the parent involvement survey stayed about the same as last year, even though we had about 100 fewer families fill out the form as last year. And I'll come back in June with information and more about that survey on our local, when I talk about local indicators. The District Transportation Department reports that all vehicles were found exemplary at in recent inspections, and they're transporting more students this year than last. And finally, student mental health remains a high priority for the district. We're going to bring in a new mental health clinician for the junior high and East Stanton charter, and have the continued presence of SAPs at almost all sites. So that will continue to support our students. Challenges. We really would like to increase parent participation and input in committees and on surveys. And when the few parents who did reply to the survey are eager to be involved. So we just need to kind of tap those reserves. And in fact, that is one of the goals on the new LCAP, is to get people involved in the committees, some specific committees, but in parent involvement is increasingly important. We also want to work on increasing student perceptions of school connectedness. The more connected students feel to school, the better. So we're going to work on that. And then continued facilities modernization and repair. Goal 4. Now, we have 3 broad goals that cover a lot, and then we have one very, very specific goal. And we have this goal because we are in differentiated assistance, because we were not reaching the couple of parts of this goal. So, OJUSD will increase the percentage of special education students who graduate with a regular high school diploma from 67.2% to 75%. And we did that. That's our success there. The 2023 students with disabilities graduation rate was 79.7%. So we're pleased about that, but we don't want it to drop. So we can't look away. We're not done. And back to the goal, the students who are prepared or approaching prepared in college and career readiness, we want that to go from 7% to 10% by June of 2024. We are not yet there. It did go up a little bit, but not enough. So successes are students with disabilities graduation rate, and more teachers have been trained in co-teaching. So I think most of our special ed teachers at junior high and high school have been trained at least once, and we have a bunch of gen ed teachers who have also been trained now. Challenges or college and career readiness has increased to just 8% for students with disabilities, so not yet at 10%, work to do. And then we're still working on removing barriers to A through G completion for students with disabilities. This needs further creative consideration and solutions. It's a really tough problem because they also have to have support classes, right, and we can't take those away. So we're looking at lots of different solutions there. Chapter 2. The local control and accountability plan for 2024 through 2027. So this is our new 4-year cycle. Now you'll see a lot of similarities between the one I just talked about and our new one, but there are some changes in there I will point out as well. So our goals are mostly the same. We still have 3 broad goals and 1 very focused goal. Some goals have been slightly reworded to include more specifics as necessary. Our previous goal 4 about our students with disabilities has been rolled into goal 2, where it lived before we had to make it a goal 4. And goal 4 now pertains to our equity multiplier school, which is East Stan, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. Those schools and subgroups who fell into the lowest performance category on the dashboard, the red zone, must be called out in the new LCAP. It's a requirement, and they have to be called out with additional metrics and actions in this new one. And I just wanted to put in a note that educational partner input remains vitally important. And thank you to the teachers, students, and administrators for their input, and to those families who did fill out the parent involvement and engagement survey. We really read that. We really pay attention to what it says. And we had several East Stan families who gave input on goal 4, and I'm very grateful to them as well. Our 24-27 LCAP goals, these are all 4 of them in one place. Goal 1 is still the same. So it's still a big goal. It's our biggest one. Goal 2, a little bit reworded to include a little bit more. OJUSD will provide strategic and accelerated intervention in academics, mental health and behavioral health, so that's new, for identified at-risk students, including but not limited to students with disabilities, English learners, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. The LCAP puts a large emphasis on making sure that we are helping our unduplicated students who are English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, our foster and homeless youth. So they're included in every aspect of the LCAP. We wanted to call out some groups here, but I can't leave out students with disabilities because they need a lot of the attention. Goal 3, OJUSD will maintain facilities, transportation services, and a technology infrastructure. So that's the new part here. The technology infrastructure was part of Goal 1. It really makes much more sense as part of Goal 3. It's part of our whole district system. And a technology infrastructure supporting a well-equipped, safe, and secure learning environment for all students and educational partners. Educational partners is the newer term. We used to use stakeholders. Now they want us to use educational partners. And so that's our families, our teachers, our community members. And students, of course, are educational partners as well, but I called them out all on their own. And Goal 4, OJUSD will utilize the equity multiplier funds granted by the state of California to increase the academic success of students at East Stanislaus Continuation High School. So you can see that, again, we have 3 broad goals and 1 very, very focused goal. And this is a requirement from the state of California in this LCAP as well. So Goal 1, same goal as earlier, academic excellence, producing graduates who are college and career ready. So the metrics we are going to use to figure this out, move us forward, academic indicators in English, math, and science. Science is now going to be on the dashboard for the first time. And so we're going to, it's not just like theoretical anymore. The work we do is real and public, and we have to pay attention to it. English learner progress, reclassification, CAS scores, and a percentage of the percentage of long-term English learners. And you can see in parentheses, I won't read all that part to you, though that's where we get the information that provides our metric, that shows our hopeful growth. Implementation of state academic standards, teacher assignments, standards-aligned curriculum, and a broad course of study. And that's a lot on the teacher LCAP survey. That's worth calling out there. And then college and career readiness, A through G completion, CTE pathways, advanced placement scores, college preparedness are all metrics that are in this section of the LCAP. And then we added this new one because so much is happening with TK and K. Our number of enrolled TK students, number of retained kinder students, which I can already tell you, so much fewer than this year than last year, which is wonderful. And kinder academic growth. So we're going to look at their growth over the years using their testing system, which is ESGI. And I cannot remember at this moment what that stands for, but the kinder teachers really, really like this system. So actions that we do, obviously curriculum implementation. We want to make sure everybody has what they need and is also trained in how to use it. Facilitation of professional learning communities. This is the planning, facilitation, and support for things like curriculum council, the tech committee, so many other committees. The C&I department runs somewhere around 75 meetings a year, so teachers have time to collaborate and grow in the work they're doing. Systemic support of dynamic instruction includes our IS4 training and our academic coaches. Central office coordination of curriculum instruction. This is CASP and LPAC, district professional development, and our iReady diagnostics all fit in there. Now, in the past, college readiness and career readiness have been one item. We separated them out because we believe that they deserve their own attention and their own little chunks of budget. So this will keep both of them in equal lighting, basically. It's not easy to overlook them. So they're split for the first time so they can each get more attention. College readiness includes counselors, college awareness, field trips, the A through G task force, dual enrollment, and the MAP program. And career readiness is career technicians, career events, career centers, and expansion of CTE pathways. So there's a lot going on there. New teacher support is the induction program through SCOE. Hiring and maintaining of highly qualified staff is exactly what it sounds like. Academic enrichment includes gate music and outdoor ed. And then, of course, transitional, so TK expansion and full-day kinder support, just making sure we have the TK teachers we need, making sure we have the TK and K instructional aides we need, and PD, so professional development, so they know best practices, and art and music for full-day K. Goal 2. I'm not going to read the goal to you since it's right there, and I'm out of breath. So, our metrics, academic indicators, again, in English, math, and science. This is where we pay special attention to how our at-risk students are doing, in particular in these categories. We have our college and career indicator on the dashboard. They have not separated those out. Graduation rate, suspension rate, and expulsion rate on the dashboard and in local data. School attendance, chronic absenteeism, and high school dropout rates. And mental and behavioral health services, assertive discipline at the elementary schools, positive outcomes after referrals. So we have some local data that's going to provide some really nice awareness for us of how we're doing with our students there.
That's the data through the Step Up program?
The data for the assertive discipline is through the Step Up program, and I just looked before we came, but Tracy gave us some excellent data about students who are referred for mental health services, behavioral health services, and how they are doing. Of course, it does not mention individual students, it just gives us overall trends. So actions that we take here. We have our academic multi-tiered system of supports. You might hear this referred to as MTSS sometimes. Tier 1 is classroom intervention, what the teacher does in order to help struggling students. Tier 2 is our learning labs, our intervention program at the junior high, and so on. And Tier 3 is resource and SDC. So this involves curricula and training and ongoing instructional support in all those areas. Credit recovery remediation and learning loss mitigation, summer school, night school, learning labs, interventions, and tutoring all fall in that category. English learner development, we use Rosetta Stone for newcomers. We use a number of other programs, Alexia English, Elevation, in order to track the progress of students and make sure they're getting the help and making the progress they need to make. And this is where special education services has been rolled back into Goal 2 from being Goal 4. It still has a lot of the same kinds of actions included in the larger goal, like continuity across elementary sites, co-teaching at secondary sites, supporting students in getting a high school diploma rather than a certificate of completion, and working toward college and career readiness. Those are all listed in there. And then multi-tiered system of supports in our district is kind of a 3-strand braid. So we have the academic strand, we have mental health strand, and we have behavioral services strand. Because when a student isn't successful in one of those areas, it's harder to be successful in another of those areas. So they all really work together. So we have that to provide ongoing support of the Step Up program, PD for all staff in how to recognize situations that need immediate attention, mental health clinician, as I mentioned before, and so on. Goal 3, OJUSD will maintain facilities, transportation services, and a tech infrastructure supporting a well-equipped, safe, and secure learning environment for all students and educational partners. So this includes the Williams Act inspection tool, the California Healthy Kids Survey, and we did find out that we need to give a survey annually on school climate. So we can give the California Healthy Kids Survey 1 year, and then the next year we can give a local school climate survey. It'll be much shorter, much tidier, and focus just on how the students are connecting to school. But we're going to work on creating that locally. Parent involvement and family engagement survey. Parent participation. Now this was something that's been on the LCAP for a while, but we are going to really start making sure that we do this. Parent participation in programs for unduplicated students. So that might be a parent involvement in the ELAC committee, in the DLAC committee on school site councils. DLAC is our district English Learners Advisory Committee. So we want to make sure parents are involved there. And then parent participation in programs for individuals with exceptional needs. So this might be the Community Advisory Committee that is run through SELPA. And so they can help us kind of keep track of that data and how Oakdale families are involved. Bus inspection reports, students served, number of routes provided, that's all local data, and the district technology survey, which goes out every spring to teachers, and they rate how all their different pieces of technology are working for them and what's not working for them. And then Kevin Brown follows up on that.
Gillian, can I ask you a question real quick?
Absolutely.
On the parent participation for like the undocumented students, would it be possible to have like a translator there? If we could reach out to like.
When we do the parent involvement survey, it always goes out in English and Spanish. Every survey we do goes out in English and Spanish. When we have the various committees, DLAC and ELAC have Spanish speakers there, so they are largely made up of Spanish speakers, so translation isn't usually a problem.
Okay.
But yeah, we try to be very cognizant of that. Actions, we do annual reviews of safety plans, continued support of the MTSS program, employment of school resource officer, and that we make sure we keep lower class sizes in primary, kinder, and TK grades. We have ongoing maintenance of facilities, including identification, prioritization, and board approval of major projects. Ongoing maintenance of district vehicles, updating and increasing the number of vehicles, hiring and training drivers and aides, increasing services as needed, and continuing to provide, in particular, services to unduplicated students and students with severe disabilities. We have to get kids to school in order to educate them, and our transportation department is key in that. And then updating and maintaining district servers, staff and student computers and other devices, as well as network infrastructure. So that's a big part of what we do. Everybody's on some kind of device pretty much all day. So whether we're taking attendance or writing the LCAP or writing an essay. So making sure that those are up to date is essential. All right, here's goal 4. So this is the equity multiplier goal, and this is our new goal, and you'll be so happy because it's only one slide. So OJUSD will utilize the equity multiplier funds granted by the state of California to increase the academic success of students at East Stanislaus Continuation High School. Now, equity multiplier funds are given to schools who have a greater than 70% socioeconomically disadvantaged students, which East Stan has, and also a 25% or greater non-stability rate, which means that students who, the percentage of students who receive a full year of school at that particular school is pretty low, which makes sense at a continuation high school. So every continuation high school in the state of California probably qualified for equity multiplier funds. I'm not sure the state thought that through, but here we are. So, so what we decided to do is so I'm going to start with the action here, is fund the second English teacher to decrease the number of students in each English class at East Stan. So they have smaller class sizes, they get more individualized attention, more feedback on the work they're doing, and can be more successful that way. This also allows the English teacher has already been there to do in-person electives as well. Electives are always a little bit of an issue at East Stan, making sure that there is enough room in the day to fit those in. So now students can take film as literature, they can take speech, and so they have that much more opportunity to complete their graduation requirements. So we're very excited about that. So our metrics for seeing the progress here is to pay attention to the ELA academic indicator for socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So we can look at that on the dashboard. Look at the number of students completing in-person electives at East Stan, and then pay attention to the graduation rate at East Stan. And again, I met with a bunch of East Stan students and parents, a teacher, Mr. King, and they had excellent input on this goal. So that's how we are going to spend that money. Now, what's next? Alrighty. So 24-27 LCAP, it's already posted on the district website for public viewing. So if people want to go in, they can find it, they can read it. I think it's riveting. Two, 24-27 LCAP will come back to the June board meeting for hopeful approval. Three, the mid-cycle LCAP report. So after this is a 24-27 LCAP, so it's like the big one. But after that, we'll just talk about it 1 year at a time again, and that's much more manageable. The mid-cycle report for 24-25 will be in February. Input is gathered about the same time. I talked to all educational partners, and what they tell us influences our next LCAP. It influences the annual update, what we can change or need to move around or need to pay attention to. And I can say from this year's educational partner input that, yes, bathrooms are on the top of everyone's mind. So that came from every group I talked to. And 25-26 annual update will come up for a public hearing at the May 25 board meeting and approval at the June 2025 board meeting. Yay, that's the end. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I had a question with regards to you said that we would be writing every other year a local school climate survey as opposed to the Healthy Kids survey.
Or we still give the Healthy Kids survey every other year?
Well, I mean, I know that there were some concerns about certain items in the Healthy Kids survey. So can you just address that a little bit in terms of, what this local school climate survey would look like? I mean, do we wholly create it? I mean, we do. So it's not like a template from the state of California, okay?
No, there's no recommended other survey. So I'm currently pulling all kinds of examples from a whole bunch of different districts, and I'm going to look at all of those and put together our very own school climate survey.
So hypothetically, could we only do our local school climate survey, or do we have to do the
I believe the Healthy Kids survey.
We're required to do it every other year?
No, what we would be looking at would be two different things. So the California Healthy Kids survey does have a school climate related questions, but in addition to that, it looks at use trends for, vaping, marijuana,
Right.
et cetera. So, and other risky behaviors. So the measures would be different. Whereas the one that's the school climate is strictly for school climate, and that's for LCAP requirements. So
Got
it's
it.
a way of filling a gap.
Yeah.
Because the CH cases are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to close the public hearing of the local control accountability plan. Do I have a motion? Or do I have to motion?
Do we need a motion to close it?
No,
I think
just-
you
just-
close
Okay.
it.
Now, I'd like to open the public hearing on the district budget with Ms. Booth.
No, I'm not, okay, not today. I will be presenting at the June board meeting our full adopted budget. Right now for the public hearing, I've presented our multi-year, but it is not finalized yet. As we know, the governor only released his May revised, but not enough details to do much of anything with it. Those details should be released around May 14th. And so we should find out more how the governor's, our budget, the state of California, and since over 80% of our funding comes from the state of California, it's very important we know what is going on at the state level. So this is just a preliminary budget before it comes back to the board in June with those details.
From the public? The hearing.
Okay, close the hearing. Okay, moving on to 12.4 with the approval of the award of bid kindergarten relocatable classrooms. Mr. Daly.
Good evening. The subject of the 12.4 award of bid for construction project 241075 two relocatable kindergarten classrooms at Cloverland Elementary. The district has a need for more TK and kindergarten classrooms at Cloverland Elementary. On March 27th, 2024, the district posted a notice inviting bids with the Valley Builders Exchange, Quality Bidders, and Modesto B. On April 15th, 2024, the district held a mandatory job walk for the project, which was attended by 8 general contractors. On April 29th, 2024, the district held a public bid opening and received 4 bids. BZ Construction provided the lowest responsible bid for project 241075 for 2 kindergarten relocatable classrooms at Cloverland Elementary for the amount of $382,631. BZ Construction will provide material and labor necessary to complete the site work for the installation of 2 pre-purchased relocatable classrooms per DSA approved plans. The proposed contract amount is being funded by developer fees and ELOP and within the district's budget for this project. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees award the bid for project 241075 to BZ Construction as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, so moved. Do we have any questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay, so moved.
Okay. Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Okay, 12.5, the second reading approval of BP 3515.21. Mrs. Booth.
Yes. The district does not currently have a board policy on unmanned aircraft systems, i.e. drones. So I went to CSBA's recommended policies, and that is what is being presented tonight and had been presented at our last board meeting. With any comments open, and I'd recommend that the board do approve this new board policy, particular for our high school and maintenance and operations, to know the legal uses of drones on campuses.
Any comments? Questions?
I made some phone calls and got my answers taken care of.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All my concerns were kind of addressed on that emergency response side, so.
Awesome.
Sure.
Do I have a motion?
All motion to approve the, where are we at, the unmanned aircraft systems.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Okay. 12.6, approval of resolution number 232415. Mr. Redmond.
Thank you. Due to lack of work and/or funds, it is being necessary to lay off particular classified positions. It is recommended the Board of Trustees approve Resolution 232415 regarding the final layoff of classified positions.
Any comments, questions? Okay. Mr. Mendoza?
Okay, requires a roll call vote. Trustee Skipper?
Aye.
Trustee
Give a
Taylor?
motion and a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I
Yeah.
not get a motion?
No, motion and
I
a
just
second.
jumped into
Yeah,
it.
it's okay.
I'll motion.
My
motion.
bad, my fault, I'm sorry.
Second.
Mr.
Okay,
Mendoza?
we're ready for you
Did
now.
you get that?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay.
My apologies.
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Taylor?
Aye.
Trustee Gilbert?
Aye.
Trustee Duval?
Aye.
President Chatswell?
Aye.
And Chairman Miller?
Aye.
Or Chairperson?
Okay.
Passes unanimously.
Yes. Okay, item number 13 with Mr. Mendoza.
Okay, information. As usual, very busy end of the year. Lots of performances. 13.1, elementary choir concert and intermediate choir at Sierra View Cafeteria, May 14th, 6 p.m. Elementary choir spring concert, intermediate choir for Fair Oaks Cafeteria, May 15th at 6 p.m. 13.3, our FFA program is going to have their spring banquet at the Bianchi Center on May 15th, starting at 6 p.m. On 13.4, OHS instrumental ensembles, OHS band, jazz band, and drumline will be performing May 16th at the Oakdale High School Theater, starting at 6:30. 13.5, Cloverland Family Fun Night is being held Friday, May 17th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And 13.6, Fair Oaks is also going to have a family picnic night, same evening, May 17th, 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. 13.7, final choir concert at Oakdale Junior High and Oakdale High School choirs will be performing at the Oakdale High School Theater, May 21st. First performance at 6 and then the second at 7:30. 13.8, 7th through 12th grade minimum days for finals will be held May 21st and 22nd. 13.9, K-12, all school minimum day, including the secondary finals, will be held that last day of school, which is Thursday, May 23rd. And last but not least, graduation ceremonies. The charter will be held at the Cloverland Multipurpose Room Amphitheater outside on May 22nd, starting at 5 p.m. We will then move on the same date to the East Stanislaus Valley Oak graduation ceremony. That will be conducted at Oakdale High School Gymnasium, as I said, the same evening, May 22nd, and that will start at 7 p.m. The following day, Oakdale Junior High School will hold its graduation at the Oakdale High School Stadium on May 23rd, starting at 7 p.m. And then finally, Oakdale High School will be graduating its seniors in the stadium on May 24th at 7 o'clock.
Okay, item 14, Mr. Mendoza.
Next items for next agenda, Gillian will return with our local report on local indicators. We will also be hearing another hearing and a public approval for tonight's LSAT.
You won't hear it all again.
We'll just get a little Reader's Digest version and the approval. We will also be approving the charter LCAP. And 14.4, we will have a public hearing and approval, same Reader's Digest version.
Nope.
No?
Nope, this is the long version.
This is the long version.
Yep, you're gonna hear it from me the next month.
Okay, all right. So that'll happen for the 24-25 budget, and Cassandra will be on center stage for that.
Okay, item 15.0, any future agenda items added by the Board of Trustees?
Right now.
No.
For the future? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Then we'll go into closed session.
Yep, the board will now go into closed session. Are there any public comments on the items listed for closed session? Okay. The next meeting will be on Monday, June 10th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. for open session at the OJUSD Technology and Staff Development Center on Hinckley Avenue. We are adjourned.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Great job.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.